Welcome. The theme of Friendzone is wide, and you can look at it from different sides, so discussing them all in one short material will be difficult. But as usual, I will try to present what I think is most important for understanding the subject. This is an undesirable situation in the context of a blow, in which the candidate is not perceived as an object of desire. If you tried your hands with a girl and you got to friendzone, it means that you did not arouse the desire, that is, the corresponding emotions mistakenly called love, and as a result, you ended up in the drawer of an unattractive guy in terms of relationship and procreation. That is, you became her friend. Unattractive, that is. One that is not perceived as the best possible choice for a lady. I would remind you that attractiveness at the basic level is determined by the primary brain, not the logical frontal cortex. The latter has the task of finding an acceptable explanation, the rationalization of felt emotions. The criterion of being perceived as attractive by you at a basic and often subconscious level, because I remind you that girls often do not know exactly what these criteria are, and therefore describe that there is no such thing, is reduced to value and usefulness. So the boyfriend candidate is either not funny enough to generate the appropriate emotions that you would want more, or not pretty enough to conquer her ego, or even underestimate her value in the environment, or is not rich enough or cunning, or male. The exact criteria that the guy did not meet are entirely individual and depend on the particular girl and the life phase in which she is. But it is certain that if he reached a friend's page, he did not fulfill them, because otherwise she would allow him to come together and they would form a couple. For men, the criteria are simple: nice or ugly, nice or arrogant. That is why it is said that real desire cannot be pretended, and this is true for most girls. Note, it's precisely for this reason that ladies make artificial boobs and makeup and spend fortunes on clothes, because they want to be desirable, to attract the guy they think is attractive. What kind of guy is he? Better and stronger than them explains the phenomenon of hypergamy. They can say what they want, but I've seen and checked too many times to believe it's different. Logically, they might say it's different, but biology is what it is, and as long as you're not aware of it, it is subject to it just like any other unconscious human being. For example, have you ever seen a woman who would say, "I want a guy to fly on my intelligence and knowledge, so I'm going to take a PhD in quantum physics or material engineering, or before a date. Instead of making makeup for hours, I'll read a few poems to impress him." There is no such option. It's easier to spend 15K on breasts than to spend a few or dozens of years charging your head with information that is irrelevant in the process of arousing the desire for the primal brain. Conscious men know this, and therefore they treat older ladies who are on the last straight differently, and differently to young women, because something else is important to them. They have different logical criteria, but the biological bases are unchanged. A male man will always be attractive to a woman. It's over, Dick. That's the rules of the game. Since we already know that hitting a friend zone is basically a rejection of bribes, the question arises, why exactly a friend? You need to know that the way women communicate in the linguistic layer is different from men, in the sense that women do not want to hurt the feelings of others, and in addition, they want to stay in the best possible social committee with other people who are in her social circle. For this reason, rejecting the fancy of a guy, an elegant woman, I emphasize elegant, will do it gently, in such a way that instead of entering into an intimate relationship, she will offer her friendship and thus ends up in a friend's bookmark. And here's the problem, because friendzone isn't what a guy cares about. The guy usually wants to hang out with you and go to bed, not be her friend. This unfulfilled desire, one might even say, a biological and hormone-driven need, will generate tension, which is unpleasant because rejecting the waves means that nothing will be out of the bedroom. In contrast, selfish, toxic women with bursting and often unrealistic expectations who are convinced of their uniqueness, having a bunch of adorers, will not force themselves to do so and simply in the world will reject you without hesitation, especially if it does not have any consequences. This means that it's much easier to get rejected in a crowded club where a woman practically doesn't know you, and there's little chance she'll ever see you again than if you were closely connected to people from her everyday environment, for example, from work. So that you can understand this mechanism of rejection, I'll give you an example. Imagine a 150-pound, 160-inch woman coming up to you, and she's the one who wants to get into a relationship with you, or at least pull you into the bedroom. You see, she has greasy hair and ugly skin, and she's all sweaty because she gets tired of even walking. You're going to be excited by her? Probably not. If she is going to weigh 80 kilos and has some prospects for losing more kilos, that is, in a reasonable perspective, you suspect that she can improve, or if through her, you can have access to her attractive colleagues. If she has, you will also offer her friendship so as not to burn bridges behind her and not to go out on a prostate. In that case, it's you who'll make her a friend in orbit. This is the same mechanism seen from the other side. The interesting thing is that if you can recognize the specific criteria that a girl is guided by, and then demonstrate these desirable qualities, or if you naturally possess them, then it will be very difficult for you to fall into a friend's bookmark, and in principle you will have to try pretty hard to do that. Guys who have a lot of choice, just like the gentleman, can afford to be thrown into the friend zone of girls, and it's usually the ugly ones that I just described. To sum up this part, if you have been described as a friend by a girl who you like and who you're doing a little bit of a bitch, then translating from a female language into a language that a guy can understand the message is, you're a cool guy, but you don't attract me sexually. From a male point of view, friend zone means a lack of prospects for pleasure, but at the same time, it means rejection and therefore is such an unpleasant state. I remember a coincidence when I landed in this zone myself. It was a long time ago. She was a girlfriend. It was fun to talk to her. She was open. She had an extra tempting look and a cool ass. Well, I liked it. I went to this from the opposite side, that is, just like a nice and unknowing the rules of the Game Boy suited, or delicately and indecisively. And I also got stuck in my head instead of acting decisively. This meant that when I finally invited her on a date, I got a feedback message that I almost remembered. You are a great guy, I respect you very much, and I like you, but... And here you tell yourself the rest. So don't worry, I guess there's no guy on earth who's fallen into a friend's drawer at least once, and probably much more often than he's willing to admit. You need to know that the fact that a girl threw you into a friend's bookmark doesn't mean that you're worthless and that everyone will. If everybody actually does that, it means that you have to take care of yourself and improve something in your life. Remember, nothing will change until you change something. Now let's move on. Why is friend zone uncomfortable? Once you're in it, there are two main reasons. Firstly, this is the rejection mentioned earlier. And secondly, it is most often the merit of the guy himself. Idealizing a girl and putting her in your head on a pedestal automatically diminishes your value. It happens mostly unconsciously, but it happens. I know that if you're in this situation for the first time and you don't have experience yet, you think life is losing its meaning and the greatest tragedy in the world has happened. I know that feeling. I was there. I felt it. You've invested emotionally a lot more than a girl. You imagined holding hands at sunset on the shore of the shivering sea and confessing to each other with tears of joy in the eyes of an exceeding love. Wake up. It doesn't work like this. You fed yourself with such thoughts because they were pleasant. In this way, you have created false beliefs about what your future will look like with it, and life has verified this. And that's why unpleasant suffering arises. Classical cognitive dissonance. The more you invest emotionally in your thoughts rather than in the proverbial here and now, the more you will be disappointed. That's why I told you to give as much as you get. And I didn't just mean the financial or material aspects, even the emotional ones. I'm perfectly aware that biology and the hormones, or the urge, will play against you, and in that situation, they'll put pink glasses on your nose. But I can tell you from experience that over time you will become more and more aware of this, and that will make it easier and easier. The friendzone situation, unless you are a popular actor, musician, or other celebrity, will become more and more familiar, and therefore less will move you on the basis of the principle of habituation. You'll accept and get used to the fact that things like that just happen, and over time, you'll learn that this isn't the end of the world either. But if you realize that you've hit a friend's bookmark, the worst, really worst thing you can do is logically persuade and beg for love. This will usually bring the opposite effect to intended, because sooner or later, the more tired you are, the girl will consider you a beggar and will cut contact with you herself. I know that in such a situation you'll feel unfairly treated and she just doesn't recognize you, but remember, the game is brutal and it's not about your luck. I also remind you that when you ask for a relationship, you come out on the weak, and you already know how hypergamy reacts to weakness, so this is not the way. At the outset, I have to warn you that I don't know a 100% method that will work in all cases, because there are situations where if a girl has another guy in front of her who meets her criteria, then you just have to become better than him, and that brings the game to another area. Sometimes impossible to jump right away. However, knowing the rules of the game, you can increase your chances. The first thing you need to understand is that you got into a friend zone by yourself, through your mindset. It may sound a little rough, but you need to know that the main reason you're feeling bad is that, in a sense, you put yourself there. I just mentioned that the main reason to be just a friend is to put a girl on a pedestal, and that's also why anyone who does that will feel bad. You let the fantasy of reality obscure the present, what it really is. If you didn't do that, and instead reacted to what is, I guarantee you that you'll be frustrated about it, knowing that it's time for good news. You mentally put the girls on a pedestal, and you can change that too. It will, of course, be difficult at first, but it is not hopeless. We need to change our attitudes, our beliefs, and our way of thinking. You don't have to get stuck in that suspension. It is possible that you leave a friend's bookmark without a desired girlfriend, but you really don't have to get stuck in apparent despair. Although, on the other hand, sometimes it is the feeling of hopelessness that is a good motivator for change, to move forward and become better and therefore more attractive to women. Behind all this is the selfish goal of fulfilling your desires. But, well, that's how it works. Looking at the situation from a certain perspective, you put yourself in a friend's bookmark because you played safely. You've been hiding your real marriage intentions. You didn't escalate and did not stir up the atmosphere sexually because you were a nice guy and you were afraid of being rejected. That's the most common scenario. Didn't you accidentally think that if you were to have mercy on the object of your breathing, it was the object that would have mutual interest in you, as in romantic comedies? As a result of loving, the girl has judged you as her friend, not as the guy she wants to have intimacy with. I recommend that you analyze your behavior, and with knowledge, look for the moments when you made this mistake. Moments when you hesitated. Moments when you sincerely wanted to do something more, like kissing a girl, but you thought it wasn't right. You don't have to throw yourself in the throat and fly with her. But if, for example, you say something to a girl in such a situation, "But I want to kiss you," even if she says, "Well, what you are, after all, we're friends," then you sow the grain. You're going to show by action that you want something more than just friends. Of course, there is a risk that she will reject you if you make other mistakes in the process of seducing, but she will already know that she wants something more. In this sense, the truth will free you, because if you tell her at the right time that you have a great desire to kiss, then only two things can happen. The best, that is, she'll let you know that she's willing to do it, and then you're winning. Or the worst, that's to tell you that you don't want to and you'll feel occupied or rejected. In any case, you won't keep it in you, and this will clear up the situation a little bit. Remember not to delay showing her interest. The later, the worse. One way or the other, but you won't be making movies in your head. See for yourself how a little bit of sincerity will be purifying to you, because you will have to gain the courage to be rejected. This will, in a sense, be positive for you. Another element of getting out of a friend's drawer will be unintuitive, because you need to let go a little bit so as not to overlook. We need to put ourselves on a pedestal and dedicate this period of indulgence to development, to become attractive. I would remind you that not being needy is also one of the elements of attractiveness. You know what attracts women at the basic level, so by choosing, you will have an improvement in appearance, status, or interpersonal skills. Your attitude, attitudes, beliefs, and self-confidence. The set of the latter is called the internal game. When you change your most often white chivalry attitude toward ladies, it will not go unnoticed. Of course, this does not guarantee success because the crush is most often not an equation with one unknown, and the mindset is only one of the elements, but it risks that in some cases quite sufficient. In a word, start developing yourself in every sphere, not just the relational. I'm saying this in a general way, but you're going to have to judge which parts of your life you want to improve because it can be different for everyone, but the basics are always the same. Appearance, cash, self-confidence in any order. When you fix this, you'll have to start acting and take the risk of being rejected, and you're going to be rejected. By playing safely, you minimize the risk, but you also minimize your chances. Women like men with vision and stubbornly pursuing a goal. In order to the goal, sometimes you have to take risks, and here the circle closes. These are the rules of the game. Breaking your limits, including anxiety, is a sign of self-worth, and healthy self-esteem is simply attractive. Build them, and the situation will definitely improve. This does not mean that all your troubles will disappear because they will not, but it will be better and easier. Self-confidence will help you pass the fucking tests, and when you really know and understand your value, even rejection will not be extraordinary for you. But for this, a proper mindset is necessary. In short, acting in spite of fear. Then the experience will come with time. The girl doesn't really bite unless you ask her to. And the worst thing that can happen at the breakup stage is she can tell you fall or I have a boyfriend. Anyway, you have a clear situation and you can move on and not interfere with your projections. Not getting what we want is part of life, and only small children or narcissists are unable to understand it. In the last part, I'm going to focus on one tactical maneuver to get out of the friend zone. Women are hypergamy. They're looking for the best male they can have, and that's within their reach. This is where the principle of social proof comes to our aid. If you want to be potentially attractive again, you have to get other girls interested in you. The ideal situation is for a more attractive colleague to be interested in you. That's where biology comes into play. A little jealousy, but above all, fear of loss. The principle of social proof causes uncertainty under the title to appear most often in a woman's head. If he is interested in an attractive girl or even with him, then maybe there is something in him that I didn't see. The other one is also a woman, so there must be something in him. We know that hypergamy is looking for the best candidate available. It's her only task, so we give her a lot of nuts to bite. And then the hammer in this wheel starts running fast. Of course, you will say that this is unethical, ugly, and manipulative. That's not the case at all, but I just remind you that the guys didn't come up with it, they just observed it. After all, on some women's forums or channels, such advice is directly articulated. This is a trick seen by ladies who successfully apply it to nothing-conscious guys. In a sense, it arouses curiosity and jealousy, and interacts on a subconscious level. It's like showing your neck to a guy, so learn from the best. Applying this maneuver will require you to be familiar with the rules of the game because you will have to draw or at least interest yourself in a more attractive girl, and then it may turn out that the first one won't interest you anymore because you have a prettier one. That's a paradox. We'll always want more of what we can't have. In conclusion, a friend zone is a situation in which you put yourself in with your thoughts and put a stranger on a pedestal. If you are not honest and courageous with yourself, feeding yourself with illusions instead of facts, then you have the greatest chance to find yourself in this position. If, on the other hand, you do not invest emotionally in the initial phase of acquaintance, if you approach a girl with curiosity and principle wondering what will result, let's see. Even if you find out that you are not, then you will not be worried about it. Actually, I love her so much and she doesn't want me. You don't love her, you just want to go to bed with her. Fulfill your biological program. The phase of falling in love passes after a few to a dozen months as the hormones decline. That's how nature works. You really want pleasure, and when you don't get it, you feel bad. This is the whole secret of the inconvenience of friend zone and becoming a friend. Unfulfilled expectations. Don't have expectations, you won't be disappointed. Turn expectations into curiosity and you'll see what changes. If you like this movie, leave me a like and a subscription. Thank you.